Welcome back to the 100K Pod pre-season review. We are previewing every single team this season. We're up to St Kilda Saints. Dobe, how are you, brother?
Jev, I'm good. It is currently Friday night. We've had a couple of pre-season games on. We've had a little bit of a taste test, Jev. We got absolutely one on the shins the other night from Melbourne. You boys took an absolute lick from the Lions, but Jev, it's pre-season. If it's your team, you think that your season's going to go unbelievable. If it's your team that gets absolutely whacked, you go back and say, don't worry, it's just a pre-season game. That's why it's such a good time of the year. The Saints will be up very soon, tomorrow, I think. So let's get into it, Jev. So the St Kilda Saints, very interesting side, this one. Didn't like them the last couple of years, but we have a look this year and we'll sort of figure this out by the end of the about next 20, 25 minutes. So St Kilda last year, Jev, finished 6th on the ladder, 13-10.
It's unbelievable.
They had a good season. They are absolutely making wine with grapes, this mob. So the first question, competition A-graders, Jev, do the Saints have any? Who do you have in this category?
Yeah, before we get into it, we'll just say, if you haven't listened to an ep yet, because this might be one where the Saints supporters jump on, we do the same questionnaire for every single team. We've done it for every team so far up to St Kilda. And the first question we answer is competition A-grader. I'll be super interested to see if Saints fans agree with this task, but I was leaning 0. But I'm going to go 1. Jack Sinclair.
Thank you.
He's a very good player, but surely it's fair to say he's in the same tier as Dacos, Bont, Toby Green, Charlie Curnow. But he was All-Australian last year, averaged 29 disposals, 500 metres gain. I think he's a bloody good player, but he's on the line of position A-grader and competition A-grader. Anyone you don't rate as high as Jack Sinclair, I think is position A-grader. I think he is the last competition A-grader. I'd have him as the bottom of my competition A-graders. He is the line for me, and we just did the Richmond pod, and I had Shai Bolton as a position A-grader. So, they're the sort of two players I'm sort of rating that I just don't think are in the same tier. What about you, Das? Who do you have for competition A-graders?
I definitely had Jack Sinclair in there. He's my only one, Jev. As you did mention, best and fairest and All-Australian the last 2 seasons. He's an elite ball user off the half-back line. And the reason why I've got him in there is because you genuinely look at a team a little bit closer when they play your team. He's one of the only players that we've had to pretty much tag from the half-back line. We have to shut him down because he used the ball so well. As you did mention, Jev, just under 30 disposals a game. And I'm sure his efficiency's close near 80. He's so good with ball in hand. And I like we've mentioned from a lot of these guys, these halfback guys, you mention them as almost like quarterbacks for their team, but he definitely is. And you think about that position, Jev, in the All-Australian side, he's been there the last 2 years. So he's obviously got the respect from the voters. And I know when we play him, he tears us a new one every single time, and you don't want him to get the ball in his hands. I think he's a really good player, and I think he probably doesn't get the recognition as a competition A-grader, but for me, looking at him and every time he plays us, I would definitely have him in that category.
No, you're definitely fair. He absolutely dominates at Marvel Stadium. He's a good player. You got to put time into him. Wonder if we'll see him more in the midfield this year, but he's the sort of guy that lines up at halfback and then just goes and does what he wants and then demands respect from his opponent. So, yeah, he's probably a competition A-grader. While you're on fire, Dust, give me your position A-graders from the Saints. Not necessarily the competition's elite of elite, but guys you would definitely have at Carlton or just guys that are so good at their position, they're basically position A-graders. Go for it.
It's got to be Jimmy Webster, doesn't it, Jev? Oh, no, wait, is this the reverse position?
Jimmy.
Sorry. No, got Cal Wilkie in there, Jev. Really good lockdown back. I know you're probably going to touch on this in a minute. At the start of last year, you had a bet. You had a Slabber, a Palmer, a Pot. You didn't think that Cal Wilkie would make the top 40 of All-Australian. Have you owed that Palmer?
No, I haven't because the bloke lives in Queensland, but I'm sure when he comes down, I'll talk about it in a minute.
That's fine. So Cal Wilkie, Jev, he's in there for me as a position A-grader. And this bloke, he's almost one player, if you could draft a couple of guys, say you've got Max Gawn, your Brodie Grundys, this guy's here, Rowan Marshall, Jev. He's a fucking gun. And you have to go watch him play. He's tough as nails. And they put him forward a little bit. He's a really good set shot. I honestly don't think they use him enough up forward, probably because they need him in the ruck so much. They can put him behind the ball. He's a little bit dumb. He was on the footy show that time. He did a bit of a Mal Meninga. I've absolutely fucked it. But he's a genuine superstar, and he's a position A grader in that ruck position. I've just got those two. And look, I'm probably a little bit harsh not having Jack Steele in there. Two-time All-Australian. He's a really good player, but I just feel he's dropped off a little bit last year. And if you're thinking position A graders, if you are putting that midfielder in there, the clearance player, you've got you're probably about 8 to 10 guys you're putting there in front of him. He's the caliber type of player, but I just don't have him in the position A grader, but can definitely get back there. So Wilkie and Marshall for me, Jev. What about you?
Yeah, so I've got Cal Wilkie. He's a very good fullback, was the All-Australian fullback. He can absolutely dominate games at Marvel Stadium under Ross's system. As you were saying, last year, before the season started, had a Saints supporter text me that I used to work with, moved to Queensland, and he goes, we had a bet, Palmer in a pot, that Cal Wilkie would make the squad of 40 All-Australian. I said, not a fucking chance. So he earned my respect last year because I watched him because I wanted to win this pot in Palmer. So he earned my respect. He's a good player. And then I'm the same. Rowan Marshall. I reckon he's a fucking good footballer, does. He's arguably, as you sort of touched on, the best forward ruckman in the comp. He looks seriously dangerous when he goes to the forward line, and he's a great round-the-field ruckman. He averaged 5 clearances a game as a ruckman. Like, that is solid numbers. So he's a bit different to, like, your Max Gore and your Tap ruckman. He does it different, but he's a fucking good footballer. And I'm going to go Max King, Das. More on projection. But this has to be the year. 20 games, no injuries, Coleman watch. It has to be. I want to see him kick big bags of 7, 8 this year. He's got it in him. But it's just the biggest look like Tarzan, play like Jane. Looks like a Greek god, plays like a Greek yogurt at the moment, does. It shits me to tears. So... But yeah, he's got in. I would love Max King at the Swans, but he's just always something wrong with him. He's injured, or he's bumped his head, or he's stubbed his toes. I'm fucking sick of it. I'm sure Saints supporters are as well.
Yeah, Jev, and he's the only other person you're looking at, and I was just like, just not a position A grader yet.
Yeah.
If you look at the big key forwards, he's not a Kerno, he's not a Cameron. Like he's not a Hawker. Like he's got all the tools in the toolbox. He's just got to bring him out. And as you said, he just needs a bit of luck with his health, to be honest, because I'm sure if he gets a little bit more consistency in a game and you're not having to worry about doing your shoulder again, coming back from a calf, because his calves are the size of my quads, but it's a big calf.
Is he a better footballer or a better player than Nick Larkey? Nick Larkey has the runs on the board. Nick Larkey does it. He puts the runs on the board, does it in the season. But I'd probably still take Max King, but maybe Larkey hasn't played in a good side. That is the perfect line, don't you reckon? Who would you take? Max King, Nick Larkey?
Oh, if they're both healthy. You'd have to lean towards Max King just because of the potential. And I just think he can do a little bit more. Yeah. Pack mark, probably a little bit more at ground level. But Larkey's just you come up, meet the footy, go back, and he slots
He kicks bags of 7. He kicked 70 goals last year. I'm going to say I'm probably going to lean Max King as well. But if Larkey kicks another bag of 70 this year and Max King only plays 12 games, we're always talking about projection, I'm going to spew up. I'm fucking sick of it, actually. All right, you go. Notable role players, Das. Notable role players. Who did you have down for the Saints?
Yeah, I got 3 here. So we've got Mitch Owens. I thought he played an unbelievable team game at the start and then almost shunned and become like their best player in that forward 50. But he started off just doing what he had to do, trying to put on blocks, but he became the main part of that show. Tim Membry, when he's in that side, I feel he has to take 1 or 2 guys and really almost drag guys out so Max King and these other guys can come through. But Marcus Winager, he played 19 games last year, mainly across half back. And he's so fucking fit. And the fact that they absolutely love him, he would sometimes have to push up and then tag the opposition's best player, and he can run with them. So he's only played the 37 games thus far in this career, Jev, but I think he's going to play a massive part to them coming into this season. And you know why they rate him so much, Jev? They've just given him the number 2 jersey, so the Spud Frawley number. So they obviously think he's going to be a player for the future. Yep. He's super fit. We watched him last year. He can play across the halfback. And he plays a really good team role. Almost lets Jack Sinclair run off his man a little bit more because he can shut down a player, run with. So I think the Saints fans would agree with me on that one. Only the 37 games, as we did mention. So sky's the limit for this kid. What about you?
Das, I'm super bullish on the Saints, and I don't know why. I reckon they're going to play defense well, like all Ross Lyon coach teams do. But then they're going to come out of the back line with elite kicking and speed. Nasai Wanganeen-Malira, he's a star. Jack Sinclair, as we said. Then the raps they've got on this Darcy Wilson kid, they reckon his kicking and speed is just unbelievable. And then, as you mentioned, Marcus Windhager. Then they're going to use the speed and running from Liam Henry, who they recruited from Freo, Brad Hill, Dan Butler. And I reckon they've got the game winners in Mateus Philippou and Mitch Owens on the forward flank. So I'm super interested to see how it all works and how they all use. But a lot of pundits are talking about how good they're going to be. So, yeah, I like their edges. I like the side they're going to put out on paper. And I like Ross Lyon at the helm, how he's going to use them. So, yeah, they've got some good players.
So while you're on that, Jev, what have you written down for the depth? So you can take anything from this. What have you written down?
I worry about their midfield depth. Is it fair to say they have a bottom 5 midfield in the comp? Jack Steele, Brad Crouch, Seb Ross, and Stuff. Zach Jones, Hunter Clark. Whereas I love their team around the edges, I reckon their best midfield duo, and you can pick the duo, would be the 17th in the comp, only in front of West Coast. Is that too harsh or is that fair?
17, I would probably. I'd have to really think about.
Throw some teams out there.
I can't think 17 because they push a lot of sides coming through the middle. But yeah, I know what you mean. The names definitely don't stick out like the others.
And so it makes me feel like it's a Ross Lyon thing in a way, or they are underrated good competition midfielders, which I totally think they are. But if Jack Steele and Brad Crouch or Jack Steele and Seb Ross is your best two-punch midfield, it's 17th in the comp for me, but maybe I'm being too harsh. And Saint supporters are going to hate that. What did you write down for depth?
Yeah, look, I kind of like their forward line, Jev. So pretty much last year, they played majority of the year without a full-strength forward line and just mustered up these wins. But if everyone's firing, Jev, King, Membry, Butler, Higgins, Mitch Owens, Mateus Philippou, and 2 other young players that I really like, Cooper Sharman, bet on him a few times. He showed that he can kick goals. And Anthony Kamenides, who is another big fella. Do you know how they got him?
He's the one from bloody Lazy Mo's on Oracle Road, isn't he? They didn't have a meal there, did they?
Not quite. So he was... So Silvani, he's gone to the Saints, asked Jack how training was. So he was training with the Blues. He said, how's training going? He's like, yeah, pretty good. We've got this young kid absolutely towed up Wiedering today. Kamenides, wow. Blues got rid of him. Sauce picked him straight up. So he pretty much came in the side and he played a fair few games last year. He's a big fella. Yeah. He's a big lump. And he really goes hard at the footy. So I actually really like that forward line. And as you did mention, not from Lazy Mo's, that's got me. That's fucking got me. Lazy Mo's. So if anyone's here from our area, you go down to Warrigal Road.
No, there's an AFL footballer whose dad owns it. I thought it might have been Kamenides. And he goes and works there one day a week when he doesn't have training. I can't remember who it is.
If it is, this makes it even better. But the meals aren't the best, but they're huge. They are huge. They're massive, Jev.
All right, back on track. Young, are you done with depth?
Yeah, it's a depth.
All right, young guns. No, you were about to say something about depth. Oh, anyway, young guns. What did you write down for young guns?
Yeah, so Mateus Philippou, Jev, he's come on a lot last year and he's just going to get better and better. He will start, I thought he'd take over a game maybe a little bit more last year, but we will slowly start to see over the next few years. He will impact a game with some of his goal kicking and forward craft, like a Toby Green, like circle that. There'll be a moment and he will want those big moments, like whether he'll sit on someone's head, take a hanger like Goddard, or like he'll kick a goal and really get the crowd going. So he's got that absolute X factor. But as you mentioned, Jev, Darcy Wilson, he's at Combine was off the charts. Like almost everything is like top 10. Super fast. And I think he's going to complement Brad Hill on the opposite side of the wing. And yeah, I'm really excited to watch these 2 young guys because Ross has definitely got a type. He loves fit players and they're going to want to run people off the turf. So I'm really excited to watch those 2 come through. Jev, what about you?
Yeah, I actually like what you said about Mateus Philippou. I can't think of a player to compare him as, but now you say Toby Green, maybe like the Isaac Heaney mold. Like he's probably a midfielder's body, but he's got such good forward craft. He flies for a mark. Like now I can see what he's the projection and future is going to look like. But, geez, I love Mitch Owens. How do you even explain him? He's like a forward flanker that's big and tough. He can take a big mark. He puts his head over it and breaks tackles like Dangerfield. And then he goes pinch hits in the ruck and chops out wherever they need. He has a big season ahead of him, so I'm excited about Mitch Owens. And then I said the same thing. Have you heard some of the raps on this Darcy Wilson kid? Wow, people are talking bullish on his kicking, and they reckon it's an absolute weapon, which is super exciting for Saints fans. So we're both excited about Darcy Wilson.
You know, Mitch Owens is honestly like a mid-forward gun at local level, what they do, but he's just doing that at AFL level that you wouldn't expect.
Yep.
Like usually you've got to have like one or two tricks. Like he's doing all of them. Like he'll go like up in the contest and get a few clearances. He'll go forward, take a pack mark, and he's just like a gun local footballer doing that style of football in the AFL, which is bizarre. And he's a fucking gun, to say the least. Jev, dark horse All-Australian.
So
who do you have?
I'm hoping Mitch Owens, but I don't reckon there's a posse he'd be able to hold down. He's too versatile, so I don't reckon there'd be a position at the All-Australian for him. But Rowan Marshall, he was probably fucking stiff last year. He'll take his game to another level again. He'll kick more snags. I reckon he is going to be pushing hard to be All-Australian this year. Who did you have, Das?
Yeah, Jev, I've got Max King.
Give
us a full season, young fella. He's only 23 years of age, turning 24, so maybe another year or two off, but why not? Like, we've seen the glimpses of Winks in full fly. He's kicked some big bags, but as we said, like even when he's at the highest point and he's jumping his arms up, very few will be able to spoil that, or if not, they're going to chop the arms. We know he's had a little bit of trouble with his set shots, but as we mentioned before, Jev, he's got all the tools. I hope that he stays healthy, because there's nothing worse than when you play a few games and then you're out. You got to work back in. If he gets a full season, I'm sure his confidence is going to go up. The crowd's going to love having him back, and they're not grimacing every time he goes for a pack mark like I was every time when Charlie came back. You're like, oh, fuck, I hope he's all right. And then you'll get more confident with his body that he can crash packs, because he's fucking huge. I saw him when I went out for brekkie the other week. He's massive.
He's huge.
Like, I'm actually not even up to his shoulder.
Yeah.
I know, like, it's not even meant to, like, he's huge. So I really hope for Max King, Jev.
Yep. Coach captain. So this is a bit of a weird question. We just write coach captain ? You take it as you want to take it. What did you write down for coach captain, Das?
Yeah, Jev, I love Ross the Boss. I genuinely love him. And even though he didn't win a flag yet, he still might with the Saints. But as a coach, you have to respect how often his teams have been successful, and he's changed the mold. He hasn't sort of gone with what's flowing at the moment. Let's just put our own flair on it. He's like, fuck it, let's go defense. Yeah. Let's get people into us. Let's play the web. Let's do all these sorts of things. And after knowing someone that's played under him, reckons he's the best fucking coach, players coach, but he'll call a spade. And if there's something wrong, he'll fucking tell you to your face. He'll rip you out in front of the team. No superstar is better than any other player. And then that's where he demands respect. When he walks in, everyone's like, oh, fuck, it's Ross. But then he knows when to turn that off. So I think the coach has a definite tick. And then Steele, look, I think he's a really good footballer, good captain for the side. And I definitely feel that he's probably felt the pinch of his performance going down last year. It's a lot to hold on to, like whether you're trying to get the boys up. If you're playing shit, then you're like, fuck, do I just need to go chase a kick, or do I have to keep doing the team thing? I still think he's the right person for the job. I think we mentioned in one of the other pods, I love that when you get someone a little bit younger in and then they can actually have a few years. So I still think he's the perfect person for that position at this time, but an absolute massive tick for Ross the Boss. And I think they're going to have a really good season. What about you?
Yeah, I know Saints fans love Jack Steele. I personally think he's just bang on average as a leader. About the 9th, 10th, 11th best captain in the game. Do they have somebody else that could do the job? Probably not. He's probably the best man to do it, but I don't absolutely love him as a leader like I love Pat Cripps or Max Gawn or these sort of guys. But the Ross Lyon, I absolutely love. I think he's their A-grader. He's their superstar. I think he's the reason they're making finals and like going this far. They reckon when he walks in the building, he makes you respect him. He makes everyone walk taller, stand up straighter, look him in the eyes when he's talking. As you were mentioned, he just demands respect and it works. He's a winner and wants everyone to be a winner. Now, it's all if they can win a premiership. I personally don't think they have the talent to win a premiership, but will he squeeze every drop of the juice out of this list to try and win a premiership? Yes, he fucking will, and it has to excite you if you're a Saints fan, knowing you're going to have a fucking chance at it. So I love Ross Lyon-Darcy.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. Like, I just think Ross is perfect. I loved him when he went back in the media.
Yeah, he was great.
He knows football. He's like a footy nerd. Like, he understands the game, and he definitely sees it through a different lens that I don't feel many other people would. So let's get into the next bit, Jev. Let's get into the fun stuff. So the strength of schedule. So judging off last year's rankings, who they're playing, who they're doubling up on. Number 1 would be the easiest schedule. Number 18 would be the hardest ranked schedule. The Saints are number 4. The easy side.
Wow. Okay. So I can see why, and I can see not why. So notable home games is our first question. So they start the season with Cats at GMHBA and Collingwood at the G. That isn't a fun start to the season. I actually don't love their first half schedule. They don't play a back-to-back game in the warehouse at Marvel Stadium until round 16 and 17 against Port and the Swans. But they play 8 of their last 9 games at Marvel Stadium. 8 of their last 9 at Marvel. So that's why they get the 4th ranked schedule, I reckon. I reckon they'll get hot darts. I reckon they're going to win 8 out of their last 10 and hit the finals fucking hot. What did you write down for notable home games?
Yeah, so the home games I had a look at, obviously you just were speaking about them in order. I went through, so they're Marvel games, MCG games. So they've only got 2 MCG games. They get one out of the way early. So they've got Collingwood and then Melbourne. They're their MCG games.
Right.
All their games at Marvel. So they've got the Bombers, the Dogs, Freo, Suns, Port, Swans, Eagles, Essendon, Brisbane, Richmond, Cats, Carlton. So you like their chances there. You think that they're just going to bring the Suns in. Like, if they're versus the Suns up there, you tip the Suns, yeah?
Yeah.
But here, you're tipping the Saints.
Yeah.
And I know this is a little bit funny, but looking at the odds, they're only out for the opening round and round 1 at the moment. But I messaged you earlier. Whoever the home team is favourite for every single game apart from Fremantle and Geelong.
Yep.
Which is the last game on round 1, which I find bizarre. So obviously they love home teams. So you feel at home, it's going to be a massive advantage for them. What do you have for the notable away games?
So this is where I find their schedule clunky, especially the first 5 weeks. So Cats at Geelong, Pies MCG, Bombers at Marvel, Richmond at Norwood Oval gather round, and then Giants in Canberra. They play at 5 different venues in the first 5 weeks. It's a clunky start to the season. They need to be the GWS of last year. Anytime, anyone, anywhere, 5 different venues in 5 weeks just isn't easy. So that's all I really took from their schedule. Like, yeah, that's not an easy 5 weeks. As much as I love their back half schedule, 8 of the last 9 at Marvel, yes, please. But that start, like, if they started 0-5, it would be, imagine the Saints supporter sort of thing, Dar. So, yeah, what did you have for notable away games?
Yeah, after you get through the Giants, Chev, they got Port, then they got the Hawks in Tassie, West Coast away, Brisbane away, and Adelaide away. So their away games, yeah, like they're almost going to every state. But as you mentioned, and they don't really get at the front half of the season a lot of like just those Marvel games. But if they can get through that first half, know that they've got that. They've got their back half because they started really well last year.
Yeah.
Ross Lyon always has a new wrinkle or a new layer to their game plan. And then every time they roll it out, clubs just, what the fuck's this? We weren't expecting this from this team. So you feel he's just going to almost play that out there. And then they come into the style of footy that they really want to play towards the back end of the year. Yeah, it's really interesting. I didn't think that they would have done as well as they did last year. But as you said, the coach is probably the number 1 player, which is usually a really big thing in the NFL because it's so stop-start. But the way that he structures their game, and as you mentioned, he gets as much juice out of every single one of those players. So, yeah, if you're a Saints fan and they do well the first half of the year, get excited for the back end of the year because you could be pushing a top 6, top 5, even higher.
Definitely. What did you have their ceiling, their floor of wins? What could you see their worst season floor of wins being?
Yeah, 11, just missing out, just couple injuries. I know you don't really want to put injuries into it, but 11 wins, they struggle and they can't get through. They won the 13 last year, so I feel 2 less than that would be their absolute bottom. What about you?
Yeah, I wrote probably 9-10 their floor is. Their schedule's tough at the start, couple of injuries and it's tears. Yeah, they're going to finish strong, but probably 9-10, yeah, probably 11. And then ceiling of wins. What do you have for their ceiling?
Yeah, I'd 16, is their absolute maximum. If they can start really well, they get that run towards the back end of the year. You know the Saints will absolutely pack out Marvel if they're a chance for a top 4 spot. It's going to get loud. They're going to feed off it. Players do. So 16 wins, which will be pushing into that top 4 spot. What about you?
Yeah, I had ceiling is a 15-win side, especially with their back-end schedule. I think Ross will hold them more accountable this year going on the road against good sides. Remember when he gave them a mulligan last year against the Crows at Crows? They just had a bit of a shock and he's like, I'll give him a mulligan for today. No mulligans this year. They'll get held more accountable this year. It's his second season. They know what to expect. They're going to be a better road team this year, and they can be a 15, 16-win side for sure.
So what would you have the over-under at?
Probably 13.5, I reckon. Oh, yeah, 13.5, I reckon. 13-win side last year. They should be better this year. It's fucking hard to win 14 games in this comp. That feels like the number, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's the number that I put down, 13.5. It was smack bang in the middle of those two, especially judging off last year. Yeah, it's tough. So depending on that, I'm not exactly sure where I'd lie at the moment, but potentially over. Jev, do you have a hot take for the Saints?
Can Max King win the Coleman medal? Is this the year he plays 21-plus games, the Saints are a top 6 sides, and we start seeing Max King consistently kick bags of 3, 4, and 5? He should kick a goal a quarter every week to us. That sort of player he should be. And we finally see him start to kick bags of 7, 8, and win the Coleman with 75 goals this year. Can Max King win the Coleman, Das? Do you have a hot take on the Saints?
Yeah, I know this award only goes to the coach that wins the grand final, but Ross Lyon for Coach of the Year for yet again changing the game in whatever sort of style that he has the Saints playing. You know that he has them absolutely running all day. And you would hate to man up on one of these guys when they get to Marvel because you know they're going to run you up and down. I don't know what they're going to do, but whether they over try and possess and then really push out and run up and back and defense first, but he's going to add a new layer to this game and we're going to be watching. We're like, why has no other team done this before? And I guarantee he's going to change the game again. He's one of the best footy minds we've had in the last few decades. So watch out for the Saints. Get excited because Ross Lyon is going to absolutely put a bomb in the AFL in the first half of the year, and teams are going to really have to react to it. So Ross Lyon and the Saints, I think we're both a little bit bullish on. If it's 13.5, I feel I've got them in my 8, so I'd probably have to take the over on that. But I'm excited till we finish these last 3 sides so we can really put it together.
Let's go, Dave. Let's go. Good work. That is the Saints. Message us with any feedback you've got on the Saints. Me saying their midfield duo is probably 17th in the comp. Will that go down well with Saints supporters? We will see. See you, Das.
See you, mate.